My presentation is just to emphasize on what has been said earlier about state involvement, non-state actor involvement, and policy processes, how challenging they are. And we'll look at potato subsector and the stakeholders involved. And I would like to start by looking at backwards. From 1970 to 1980, the government highly supported potato industry and especially seed potato system. We had a seed station and research station called Karotigoni. That time it was called Kari. We had ADC that multiplied seed and produced certified seed to farmers. We had distribution system in form of KFA and other market agents who distributed certified seed, and also KEFIs did for sanitary measures. Those who are old enough must have found or seen KFA distributing this seed. In 1990s to early 2000, seed system was disrupted by land grabbing and political interference of government institutions. I think we heard about this early. Political interference led to serious shortage of clean planting materials and caused decline in potato production in the country. And if we look at the production levels from 1999 up to 2003, you'll see that there was oscillation up and down, simply because of these challenges. We are very familiar with the 1990 grabbing of land and government institutions being interfered with by the politics. Now, the need for planning and coordination of the subsector. Since 2003, most of the stakeholders and development partners realized there is a need to develop the potato subsector, and GIZ, PSDA, working together with other players such as SIP, CALO, USAID, KENAF, and others, undertook many initiatives to develop the industry. And one of them was drawing the value chain, because they needed to understand how the subsector is. And then there were interventions at policy level, farm level, private sector, seed, research, and market levels. There was also formation of Value Chain Development Committee, and this was comprising key stakeholders in the subsector. This was about in 2005. However, most of these initiatives had many challenges in implementation and sustainability, and therefore they lacked long-term organization. The subsector lacked organization, coordination, and harmonization. They lacked central point of reference. The subsector information was scattered, and there was no supportive legal framework for potato production and marketing. And Value Chain Development Committee had several setbacks, and one of them was that they faced legal difficulties because they were not registered as a legal entity. So transaction of business was difficult. They lacked professional structures and requisite commitment, because these were people appointed from other core businesses. They were working ministries, they were working in seed industry, they had their own permanent job, and this was just a side job. So there was no much commitment. There was no backup farmers and farmer groups. They were supposed to support farmer groups, but they were not able to do that. Also, they were not able to address most of the issues, and therefore the Agricultural Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture formed a task force to analyze the situation and address the challenges, and this task force came up with some recommendations in 2009. Some of these recommendations included that they recommended the updating and official adoption of implementation of potato policy and regulations. Already there were drafts of policy, potato policy, but it had not been officially adopted. and it was just in the shelves. Again, because of time, they were recommending updating. And then they also recommended appointment of a potato liaison officer or potato desk officer. They also recommended formation of an organization with subsectorial representation and a PPP, public-private partnership, with legal backing, hence the formation of National Potato Council. So the National Potato Council was meant to bring together all the actors, players in the potato value chain for maximum leveraging. Now, however, there were still challenges in implementation of policy. Official adoption of potato policy was lacking. It remained in the shelves. It was not, even the legal notice that were formed, because we came up with legal notice 44 and legal notice 113 of local government and Ministry of Agriculture. They were supposed to regulate production and marketing of potatoes, but they were not anchored on any policy. Implementation was weak, and somehow opinions of decision makers in parent ministries were differing. Some key players in the ministry, up their leadership, were not for it, while others were for it. And I think I remember some presentation from Colin where there was contradiction in terms of different positions. Frequent staff changes that brought people who were not involved in the initial steps and did not understand reasons for the policy. That's also caused a lot of challenges. Also, changes in registration. There was a move to consolidate registration into manageable numbers, such that it was decided that everything should be under, potato should be under root and tuber policy. Again, everything was overturned, and even that was never implemented, it's still hanging. And then there was weak stakeholder pressure because value chain committee was not was weak in terms of capacity in lobbying. The legal notice 44, which had all the regulations in terms of production and marketing of seed and ware potato, had a lot of challenges in implementation because institutions responsible for enforcement of the regulation either lacked capacity to enforce or are not willing. Here, there are so many actors or players who are involved, from Ministry of Agriculture, local government, traders, Ministry of Agriculture on the ground, and also farmers. Some of them were not willing, others didn't understand, others didn't have the capacity. There seemed to be lack of coordination in the institution involved in the enforcement, especially because there was no ownership of these regulation. Potato traders never accepted the regulations on standard for potato marketing, mainly because they were main beneficiary of the status quo, and they kept sabotaging it. Key institutions lacked enough human and financial resources to carry out the mandates, thus delaying updating of the relevant regulations. Now, the current status of policy and regulations, I'm talking about the current because since then things have changed. There is devolvement, there is change from local government. We no longer have local government, and also the laws changed. So since 2013, the enactment of AFA Acts and Crop Acts means that legal notice 44 and legal notice 113 did not apply. They were not anchored anywhere, so they could not be applied. The new regulation on packaging is maximum of 50 kg packaging bag and pricing by weight. This is following the International Labour Organization requirement and also East and Central African harmonized marketing standards. And this East African harmonized standard is quite important to note because the standards are there, but again, they are not implemented in respective countries. And I like what Mainza said here. The next step is to institutionalize these regulation, individual countries and individual institutions, because you have to go to that step. The other one is regulation is stipulated in the regulation is stipulated in AFA Act number 13, Part 7, Section 42, and this one says that you should sell not potato or produce by you should price them by weight, and you should not pack by more than 50 kg bag. It is there, it is a law, but unfortunately, AFA itself does not give any penalty in terms of implementation. The penalty is given in Crop Act, which says that, that is Crop Act Part 7, Section 37, provides for general penalties for contravening any section of the Act whose penalty has not been provided for. And to some people, this is a cause of confusion, and also what has been, they've taken advantage of to continue with the status quo. So this provision is what informed the public notice by Cabinet Secretary appearing on daily papers dated 13th November 2014. Yeah, the public notice followed various consultative meetings between National Potato Council, Ministry of Agriculture, CEC, this is executive committee members in charge of agriculture in 13 potato producing counties, and other stakeholders. We met for several months, just like what EAF did since 2013. And we tried to look at the loopholes and how it can be implemented. And finally, we agreed that using the AFA and Crop Acts, we can have a public notice, and that can be followed. The implementation, however, has faced a lot of challenge because of inadequate coordination among the counties. Some counties moved fast, others did not move fast. Others were very clear, others were not clear, and therefore, and you know the problem is that if some county implement and others don't implement, those implementing are disadvantaged because their bags are small. When they go to the market, the consumers buy the big bags, so it has to be done uniformly. So the lack of backup laws at county levels to support AFA and Crop Acts in the implementation of 50 kg bag has also been a challenge. There was also lack of sensitization to the police and magistrate on the importance of the 50 kg bag. The police were not able to draw what they call charge sheet, and magistrate could not understand why, when a farmer is selling his property or his produce to somebody who is willing to buy whatever size it is, where do we come in? Where does the police come in? So it becomes difficult because they don't understand. And misinterpretation of the Act became a big problem in implementation. Actually, currently there is a court case where some traders purporting to be farmers went to court, and they said they were not consulted when the law was made. And the magistrate suspended the law. And unfortunately, it doesn't sound logical because it is based on AFA and Crop Act, which are actually in operation in so many other areas. So I don't understand how he's suspending one. But most likely it's just because of not understanding the implication. Now, who is National Potato Council and how did we come in? National Potato Council is a multi-stakeholder, a PPP organization with the responsibility of planning, organizing, and transforming the industry into a self-regulating and competitive industry. It was launched in November 2010, and it works with all stakeholders, all actors in the industry. It draws synergies from wide membership all along the value chain, and we have a requirement that the public sector should not be more than 45%. Here we are talking of main ministry, state agents, and county governments. In the board, because we have a board, we should not go beyond 45%, while the private sector should be more than 55%. This is to make sure that it is private sector controlled. This is our strategic objective, just aimed at transforming the industry. And this is the organizational structure. We have the full council that has everybody in the subsector. Then we have the executive board. It's made up of nine board members and 2 ex-officios, which means 11. And we have directors and management. And then we have the board making policy and all these. So we are involved in policy, lobby and advocacy, research and development, value chain support, and public relations, marketing and communication. What have we been doing? Since 2012, the National Potato Council had a roundtable meeting which included all the representatives from all the subsector actors and players. And we came up with, we identified challenges and opportunities in 5 thematic areas: seed system, variety development, rare potato production, potato marketing and processing, plus policy, legal, and regulatory framework. And from there, this is the meeting where we met at Silver Spring. We had people from the ministry, cabinets, not cabinet, but agricultural secretary was there, and directors, and also processors, traders, and development partners. And then from there is where we identified where we are that time and where we needed to go. And also we identified what are the movers, what can move us from where we were in terms of what can increase the yields, what can increase the agribusiness along the value chain, what can increase all those. We identified them and marked them. And that's what we have been working on up to today. So one of the things that has been challenging in the industry is this extended bag. It's so big, it has so many disadvantages. One disadvantage is that you can't tell how much we are harvesting from the farm or even in the country. Even the farmer can't tell the weight. Another thing, the handlers, it is risky to the handlers. We have so many of them having their back broken and legs broken during handling. The other one is because of the weight. You cannot handle gently, you drop and drag. Therefore, there is breathing and potatoes start changing the sugars, so it's not good for processing. And so you find some restaurants importing potato from outside just because of the quality and so on. And therefore, we have been lobbying for this, and this has been a headache for us. So we continue to lobby for it. We came up with a standard bag of 50 kg bag, and we have been trying to ensure that it's used in the industry, but unfortunately it's very expensive because it's imported again. Because of duty, it is protected. Duty is protected in East African country, therefore it's 46% against 16%. So those are some of the things we are lobbying to make sure that we have 50 kg bag, and then the pricing is by weight. So we have had some successes since we were formed. We have been spearheading implementation of seed potato master plan because after it was formed by stakeholders, the government did not officially adopt it, and therefore we found its house in National Potato Council. We have successfully lobbied for inclusion of farmer-selected variety called Shangi in formal certification. This could not be certified before, so you could not get a certified seed for Shangi, but today you can get it. We were also able to lobby for 50 kg packaging and pricing. We've also been able to produce catalogs. We have also lobbied for to maintain strict procedures of importation of potato seed, generally tissues, so that we don't introduce diseases in the country. And of course, that has earned us quite a good number of enemies. But we are normally firm and strict because we need to protect the industry. We have successfully lobbied for increased budgetary allocation for potatoes since we started, and it has been increasing. It has not increased enough, but still increasing. We provide platform for information sharing, engagement, and interrogation of subsector issues, such as follow-up and monitoring of emerging diseases. Like now we have 2 emerging diseases, PCN and declare disease. We have non-compliance of regulation. We are also following that. We are also members of KEPSA, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, which has roundtable meeting with the president, and we use it. We are trying to use it to push our agenda. We are also a member of Agriculture Information Network, again, as an avenue of pushing our agenda. We have also formed, after realizing that agricultural issues are not well articulated in KEPSA, we recently formed what we are calling Agricultural Council of Kenya, actually during the CADIP meeting, when we are analyzing the non-state actors' involvement in CADIP. We formed that, and we expect it to be more useful in lobbying for the industry. This is a meeting with the senators in Mombasa, when we are pushing for the increased budgetary allocation for the subsector and also the 50 kg bag. This is a meeting with also the agricultural secretary at that time, and CECs of the 13 potato producing counties. And now this is a model that we like adapting, where we have research up there, we have farmer there, market and extension, and the council is supposed to be here providing linkage to all of this, because all these are our members. Challenges facing NPCK. One of the challenges is lack of funds and sustainability. I think we have talked about this. The problem is that some of the funds that we get from development partners are low, and sometimes they do not necessarily target our mandates, but sometimes we have to take it. As long as it has something to do with potato, we take it so that we can continue pushing. We say whatever we are able to do through it, we say hallelujah. Lack of adherence to council's mandate. Because of that, competitive grants, we are not able to follow our mandate strictly. Lack of offices at county level, this is another challenge. We have to operate from Nairobi, and it's not very easy. Lack of stakeholder associations. The council membership is normally by associations. We have not been able to mobilize them to form associations, strong associations. Then conflicting interest among stakeholders. Some of the stakeholders, some of our members want to import seed from Holland, from Germany, and bring it and sell it directly to farmers. Some of our experts are advising us against that. So we have to remain neutral and firm based on the scientific evidence and what is right and what's wrong. Lessons learned. Participation and involvement of all stakeholders is crucial in all that we do. National Potato Council has to remain neutral, but it has to be firm on matters of subsector. Engagement forums are important for businesses to grow, and this one we realize when people meet, when businesses meet, they have so many issues that they need solved, and from that you can realize how important those forums are. Policy and regulation ownership is very important. Most of these policies we make, regulations must be anchored on something, either an institution or a policy, and that's why I'm saying most of these implementation of regulations have not worked because they lacked a house where they could be housed, they lacked ownership, and also institutionalization. Then fundraising of PPP structure is very challenging. This is because when you go to government, they look at us as private sector. They say they can't give private sector money. When you go to private sector, they look at us as government. So we are lost in between there and becomes very challenging. So thanks a lot.